waiting long?
Long. Only 33 years.
Quentin Barnes. But that's impossible. He's dead.
I was. But as you can see, I'm back.
Oh, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Welcome to Highlander Rewatch, the podcast where each and every week we watch another episode of Highlander the series and talk about it in detail. I'm one of your rewatchers. I'm Keith.
This is Kyle.
This is Eamon.
And welcome to episode 3, Turnabout.
It's fair play, I hear.
This episode was originally aired on October 11th, 1993. It was directed by Clay Barris. We remember him from the episode The Watchers. This is his second episode of Highlander. The writer of this was David Tynan. We heard a lot about him from our interview with David Abramowitz. He was a huge fan of him. He gave him a lot of credit for where the series went. He did 33 total episodes of Highlander the series, which is a lot.
That's a lot of eps.
Yeah. Previously, we've seen him write The Sea Witch, which we enjoyed, I think.
Yeah, that was a big one.
He also wrote Eyewitness.
Not so much.
He was eventually a producer on this show. So this is written by David Tynan.
He's got a talent for brutality.
Guest stars. This one's kind of a guest star in this one, but will become a series regular. We've got Philip Aiken as...
He's actually in the opening credits for this one.
That's right, yeah. Charlie DeSalvo. He has a ton of IMDb credits. I think he's got like 159 credits.
Yeah.
I remember watching him in Swamp Thing on the Family Channel. He was Bayou Jack.
Oh, Bayou Jack.
But also he was Bishop.
Yeah, in the X-Men
In the X-Men
cartoon.
I was just rewatching.
No way.
Yeah.
My
Awesome.
mind was blown when
Absolutely.
I saw that.
Yeah, so pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But the one thing I thought was crazy when I was looking through his IMDb credits, he also played a character called Simon Clark in Highlander the Raven.
What?
And it's like, hold on, we've seen this happen before in Highlander where they'll take a guest star and be like, oh, we'll just use him again. And it's like, I guess fine, they were like a very small bit part. We'll cast him again. You probably don't notice. I usually wouldn't. Charlie DeSalvo is a main character in season 2. And then they cast him in The Raven? I don't remember the episode he was in. As a different character. What? That's crazy.
That's whack.
Weird. The other guest star is Geraint Wyn Davies as Michael Moore / Barnes.
When they finally revealed that his last name is Moore, I laughed out loud.
I did too.
The other thing is he kind of looks like a skinny Michael Moore, like with the big glasses.
Well, when they reveal his
My
name...
notes just say he looks like Billy from Power Rangers.
Oh, he does.
So I just referred to him as Billy. My notes.
When they revealed his name was Michael Moore, I could not just help imagining Michael Moore.
With a split personality.
Yeah.
I'm Quentin Barnes, insurance companies.
But this guy, he actually, we've talked about the show Forever Knight a lot. This guy is Forever Knight. This is the star, Nick Knight of Forever Knight.
Nick at Night.
But also, he was on the short-lived action show Tracker with Adrian Paul, which aired after Highlander ended, like in 99, 2000, maybe 2000, I want to say. And he was the villain, Zin, in that episode. And that was in that show. That was a show about Adrian Paul being essentially like alien bounty hunter.
He's Lobo.
Yeah, I guess so. So, the episode description for this episode is Duncan takes on... This is the way this opens up. Duncan takes on Charlie DeSalvo to prove he's good enough at martial arts to work out at the dojo.
Is that the entire thing?
I wish. Dawson tells Duncan that Quentin Barnes is free and killing mortals, but Duncan refuses to get involved. Then Duncan's old friend Michael Moore turns up
to try to convince an insurance company to turn over a liver.
Yeah.
Determined to take Barnes' head. In flashback, Michael was unable to save his mortal girlfriend, Jeanette. Barnes beats Duncan to the priest who attended his execution,
This is so long.
and Duncan tries frantically to prevent more killings.
Great.
Fail.
Wow. So we open on the execution mentioned in that IMDb opening.
Yeah.
Where this man shrouded in darkness is about to be executed, and a priest is in fact there. Mm-hmm. And the executionee rips his crucifix off, or his rosary, or whatever.
Right.
Yep.
And this guy's pretty sadistic. Like, he's cackling while they're killing him.
And he has a mustache.
So that's our kind of like cold open. And then we cut to...
And he gets electrocuted on the electric chair. Should we say that?
I mustache you where you will spend eternity is where they was what the priest says to him.
Oh my God.
Without the mustache pound.
So then we cut to DeSalvo's martial arts gym, and it's got a sign on the wall that says the
For
building is for
sale.
sale. Duncan and Richie walk into this gym, and we get treated to this amazing dialogue from Richie, as he's been doing every single episode. He's giving us gem after gem.
Yep.
Great. Tattoos, XXX chromosomes everywhere you look. It's like watching a great kung fu.
Yeah, I can get used to this.
An art, Richie.
Triple X chromosomes everywhere you look.
You look pretty, DeSalvo's Jim.
You look pretty, chromosomes.
Is this like some weird kind of like, I don't know, Down syndrome thing? What is this about? The triple, is it just that it's a bunch of dudes?
That they're so masculine. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, did anyone see the movie Triple X with Vin Diesel?
Or the one with Ice Cube.
Or the one with Ice Cube? Is that anything to do with this?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah, it's all, they all exist in the same
They're all
universe.
related.
Yeah.
I don't know what Triple X chromosomes means.
I don't get
I'll assume
it.
it means extra tough guy.
Yeah, that's what I
The
think
extra
he's
X
saying.
is for extra tough.
Yeah.
That's right. Just like
The
the
first
X,
two X's, though.
Just like on the
it's
internet.
actually triple
with-
distilled.
What's like the X in X-Men is for an extra power, according to Stan Lee.
Buh.
Yep.
What are the pre-existing powers? Opposable thumbs?
I guess. I don't know. You're going to have to ask Stan the man.
Excelsior!
True believers?
The, I guess, proprietor of this gym, Charlie, comes over. And it's like, hey, who invited you, bozos? Like,
Yeah.
so I guess this is an invite-only private gym.
Also, his
That's for
reception.
sale.
Yeah, his reception of these two people might be a great indication as to why this place is going out of business.
Right. So,
Hey, who are you? Fuck yourself. Why are you here?
Hey, get out.
Richie gives him some shit for this attitude and brings
Yep.
up that exact point that,
Yep.
like, hey, business must be booming, like, if it's for sale. But he's like, sorry, guys, like, you know, you can't join. And Duncan's like, well, why don't you just invite me to join? And then
Yeah.
I can join. And Charlie's like, no. But then he
You
has
have to
an
pass
idea.
the
He's like, you have to
initiation.
pass an initiation. Like, this is like the Skull and Bones gym. Like, so I guess the initiation is to fight
You have to Kung Fu
Charlie.
Yeah.
Fighting Charlie.
So is he Kung Fu Charlie now?
Kung
Fu Charlie. I like that.
Kung Chuck for short.
That's right.
Oh, God, that sounds awful.
It does.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Kung Chuck.
So they go at it.
Yep. Mac does his kitty claws.
Yeah, he gets some kitty cat hands. He's like, "Meow." Kitty cat technique, and kicks Charlie in the face a couple times. Like,
Yeah.
this is a pretty brutal
is.
spar they have here.
The only time Duncan takes a hit is when he notices that Joe has also walked into this members only jacket of a
Yeah.
gym and like gets distracted and then decked.
Right.
Yep.
So eventually Duncan beats Charlie.
Yep.
And he submits or whatever. And then, like, it's kind of over. So I guess, like, Richie doesn't have to pass the initiation. Lucky for Richie.
Yeah.
I think Mac passes it for both of them.
Of course. So then Duncan just takes it upon himself to, like,
Go into Charlie's
yeah,
office.
to stake out, like, Charlie's office, and Joe joins him in there for a
Yep.
meeting. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
He actually that was a fight for ownership of the gym.
so Joe is there to tell him that an immortal by the name of Quentin Barnes, who was executed 30 years ago,
Is back at it.
is back. So two things that this, like, I had, like, red flags. I was like, oh, 30 years ago. Like, I guess that opening scene we saw was a flashback. I didn't initially pick up on that. Like, I guess looking back on it, there's like some clues. Like, I guess the way they're dressed is a little older, but
It's not
it's
overt.
really no,
No.
not at all. Like, especially
Yeah.
for like a show that doesn't have a huge budget. Like, I could see a show like that just kind of having that look. Like, it would just have this look because that's what they had.
It
like,
didn't register as a flashback to me.
No, but it's harmless.
Oh no, it's
'Cause they
harmless.
immediately say it.
Yeah.
But it puts that initial scene kind of in better context now. Where it's like,
Yes.
oh, that's what that was. But there was one crazy thing I thought Joe said. It's like, oh, like how do we know he's escaped? And they said they were doing construction on a new chapel for the prison, and when they dug up the graves, one was missing. And it's I was like, wait a minute, where? Again, I don't know, but do they bury prisoners at the prison?
I think some they do.
Really? Like,
No.
No.
I can't imagine this is true at all.
No, if you don't have, like, your body goes back to your family.
It definitely goes back to next
And
weekend.
if-
I did
and
look
if
that
it-
up.
And
I
if it
couldn't find
doesn't,
out-
you get fucking incinerated.
There are never prisons with cemeteries attached.
I don't know, but this seemed a little like strange to me, at least. But
Yeah, no, that was super weird. Though I liked the image of it.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that like the grave was disturbed, but the whole time I was like, oh, this would have been a cool shot, like to show construction workers like working on some site and like unearthing this guy and them like getting attacked by
That might
a
have
coffin
even
they've unearthed.
been a better opening.
that might have been a better opening. Yeah, I would have appreciated that. But also, like, just again thinking, how was he buried, and how did they know the coffin was empty? Like, this was 30 years ago. Are we expecting these construction workers were digging up? I'm assuming he was buried in a coffin and not just dumped in a grave. Like, they would have pulled the coffin out, but like, why would they have opened it? Like, wouldn't they have just been like, "Oh, here's the coffin," like with a deteriorated body in it? I don't know.
Good question. Maybe they heard someone banging. They
Oh.
heard "Jugga, jugga, jugga, jugga," and they're like, "Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
I don't get paid enough for this."
So anyway, Quentin's back, baby.
That's right.
Joe reveals that everyone that was involved in his execution is getting knocked off.
And he's like, "Yeah, so you should handle this." And Mac's like, "Not really my thing."
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not a cop.
Not a cop.
And so, of course, Max still does not really trust Joe. Like,
Yeah.
they still have a tenuous relationship at this point.
Which this seems like such a breach of protocol.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, really? Joe is just like, we observe and record, but never interfere until right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or-
they don't really delve into that too much in the pilot of this season, like, because Joe mentions that, and I think Horton or somebody mentions that, like, you've broken the rules already, and he's like, well, I had to. And I wish they maybe kind of got a little bit more into what breaking the rules are and entails. And so anyway, Joe leaves, and then Charlie comes back in, and he's like, oh, you come back in anytime. He's like, I want another crack at you. And I'm like, they're in love already. Like,
They
these
are.
two.
Yeah.
Ooh la la.
Oh, we forgot the part after Charlie gets beaten. Some guy comes out and he's like, "Hey, the hot water doesn't work again."
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "It's wet, isn't it?"
I love Charlie.
Also, it's good to have like a non-white guy on the show for a change.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Richie and Mac are walking around outside after the gym, and Mac gets the buzz.
He does.
And he's like, you head on home or whatever. He's like, I got to take care of something.
And
And
he-
he like leaps down
Yeah.
like a staircase or whatever. And like an accountant jumps out of
Yeah.
a bush.
And like, haha!
And he's
It's
holding
really
a sword.
funny.
It's in broad daylight, and he's like brandishing a sword at
Yeah.
somebody.
This guy looks like the nerdiest. Like, I have in my notes that this dude is like the like immortal dad.
Yeah.
Like if your like khaki wearing dad was an immortal, it would be this guy. Like,
Well, Kyle, you had a good. Who does this guy look like?
He's Billy from Power Rangers.
That's right.
That
the
is really
Blue Ranger.
Yeah.
And he's in a Canadian tuxedo. So fits the bill even more.
Perfect.
but it turns out these two are friends.
And it's Michael Moore.
Michael Moore.
Acclaimed film director Michael Moore.
So after this, we cut to a wedding photo shoot.
Yeah.
This is the strangest transition this show
Oh
has
my
maybe
God.
ever had. And
they're
they're
all-
like, oh, a little over this way. Like, and we hang on this for a couple seconds. It's like, what is this? Like, and then it's just Duncan, like the gang eating lunch together.
Eating a hot dog.
And I guess there's a wedding shoot at the cafe. Like, this is the strangest thing. And we'll find out soon why this wedding party is there. But
So this whole thing is strange because they're like just shooting the shit and like getting caught up again. They're asking like what Michael's doing in town, and Duncan jumps on him. He's like, "Oh, you're here because of Quentin Barnes." And it's like, wait, when Joe confronted you about this, you knew? Like you knew about this guy all the time and had a personal sort of connection to this
Yeah.
guy, and we're just like, not really my thing.
Yeah.
Nah. It's like, really? Like, you knew that your good pal Michael would be invested in this, and you're just like,
You just blew it off.
yeah.
And it also contradicts something we learn later, that Duncan promises Michael that if Michael is killed by Barnes, Duncan is going to take up the quest to defeat Barnes.
And Duncan has not seen Michael in a long time either, so he could maybe assume that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe he's been dead for a while, and he's like,
Right.
oh, but Barnes is back. Well, I've got a promise because I'm Duncan and I'm chivalrous and I have a code of honor and this is what I do.
Yeah, it's all just very puzzling.
Yeah,
The way that all this stuff pieces together.
I did like the fact that like Michael in this scene, like he's like normal, and I was like, oh man, like a normal immortal. Like this is
Yeah.
great.
Mortal.
Yeah, normal.
Normal.
Like I was like, normally, like it's some dude wearing a mask, taking saws to people's faces, a guy
Yeah.
that poisons people. This guy is normal.
He's like a dork.
He's just a dorky dad.
Yeah.
With khakis. So it was kind of a relief to just see like someone that was like seemingly well adjusted.
Seemingly.
Spoiler.
Ayo. So we now get a flashback, and we find out the reason there was a stupid wedding party taking
is nuts.
taking photos
It's just for this transition.
is just for this transition that they wanted to somebody had this bright idea of like
Yeah.
the image of a beautiful bride transitioning into a cackling witch.
Yeah.
would be like interesting. It isn't one.
Yeah. So she's wearing the veil, and then she slowly turns, and then the color of the screen changes.
Yeah, we
It
get like
gets
a
this weird
sepia tone.
Yeah.
And then it's some old woman who's like obviously a few bats short of a belfry. And
Yeah.
they're at an asylum.
Matt gets out of an old school like Model T and goes into this sanatorium and
Right. Yeah, this is again a flashback to that sort of like 30s time period that I think
Yeah.
is really effective. Like the costuming is great.
So-
they get that Model T looking John up in there. Like
Yeah.
it looks good.
So here's a weird inconsistency. On the episode where Duncan fights, who was on the stage? Do you remember that?
Marcus.
Mad Marcus.
Marcus, yeah. That's in black and white.
Yeah.
Then in the episode we just watched, they roughly go back to the same time period, right? No changing to the footage. And then in this one,
We've got a
it's the weird sepia thing. It just struck me as odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have a single voice in terms of how it shows different eras, but
Yeah, I'm okay as long as it like conveys whatever they're trying to show. Like I think the black and white worked well for that kind of theatrical Marcus fight, and
Sure.
I don't mind the sepia tone. I don't love it though. Like I think also sometimes the sepia tone is used to cover up their set dressings. Like
Yeah.
it's like we can't make it look too old, so let's
Right.
make the film look old.
Yeah,
that'll cover
that's
it
a
up.
good point.
So it's a little practical.
Yeah.
how much Mac in a bowler hat can you handle?
A lot.
Good, because you're getting an eyeful. So Mac goes into the asylum and he hears a woman screaming.
Someone is attacking this nurse, I guess, and they're yelling, "You deceitful lying bitch!" He dropped the B word.
He does. And they use that word a lot.
They
in
do
this
use that
show.
word a lot.
It's kind of weird.
Saturday or Monday afternoon
I hate Mondays,
action adventure show. That's a little strong language.
Yeah.
says us.
So anyway, Duncan arrives and he is too late.
Yeah.
His friend Michael is kind of shaking on the floor with his sword drawn, and he's like, I was too late. Like, I couldn't stop him or whatever.
Right. So is Michael a doctor?
Michael's a doctor, which he does say earlier. I guess we do get the clue that his last name was Moore earlier. When
Yeah.
Duncan comes in, he's like, "Oh, I'm here to see Dr. Moore." So that's when we find out his name is Michael Moore.
Yep. But he has his sword and he's cowering and he's
Yeah.
like, I was too late or I couldn't stop him. He overpowered me. I wasn't too late. But he's
Yeah.
saying that Quentin Barnes overpowered him. And then they run in and the nurse is dead.
Yeah, who is Janet?
Yeah,
Jeanette,
or
excuse
Jeanette.
me.
Yeah.
His boo.
So then we cut to the graveyard, still back in the past, and they are burying Jeanette. And this is where Duncan promises that he's going to avenge her
Right.
if if Michael Moore can't. Every time I say Michael Moore, I cannot stop but thinking about the
Bowling
film.
for Columbine?
Bowling for Columbine, and him welding a sword and being like, "I'll avenge you," like this Michael Moore voice.
Is that your Michael Moore?
That's my Michael Moore. So you know my impressions on this show are always top notch.
Gems.
Also, Jeanette's last name is Colbert.
Jacobs.
That's right.
Ty Cobb. So Mac then goes back to Joe to get back up because now he's on board for finding Barnes. And all of a sudden Joe's like, well, I don't know about this. All of a sudden he's all squeamish about it. when it was his idea.
Yeah, he was spilling the beans about like wanting his help, and now he's like, I can't give you tell you any information about this character. It's like,
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's revealed that they don't have any pictures of Quentin Barnes. It's like only the 70s, and it's like reported in the newspaper
Also,
that this
he
guy's
was-
been executed.
That you would think he would have a mugshot,
He was
right?
a prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah, like photos would exist of this guy.
Yeah.
You would
It's just
think.
like a silly little plot device.
I mean, is it possible that Quentin Barnes destroyed all records of his photographs somehow? They could have said that, though. Like,
Yeah.
all
I
the
guess.
records were destroyed in a fire or something. Like,
Yeah.
I could
The
buy
prison
that.
burnt. Oh, what would have been a better thing was instead of them digging up the grave because they're building like the prison burned down and the records presumably, and like they started doing new construction, and that's how this thing got dug up or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But also, how did what's his name get out? Like, because they imply that when they dug up the graves, like one was empty, and it's like so he escaped before they dug it up. Maybe how did he do that? I don't know.
know.
Who knows? This is all crazy.
It is.
Whatever.
The magic of cinema.
So Joe tells him that the only person left, or one of the only people left, is the priest that was there.
Right.
And so he reveals the address to Duncan, so Duncan can kind of go help the priest. So then we cut to the priest's, what would you call it?
The seminary or his office?
His
or church?
office,
I don't know.
yeah.
Okay, so you know what the priest's
Rectory.
name is?
What's his name?
Moore.
What?
Yeah.
This-
Father Moore.
That's
You're
terrible.
Yeah.
That doesn't make. Why would you name two characters more?
I have no idea. Isn't that
That's
weird?
a joke, right? His
No,
name's Father Moore?
I'm dead serious. Yeah.
Padre
I'm
Moore.
like 98% sure because I wrote it down in my notes. I was like, "What? Like, you couldn't come up with another name?"
That's so weird.
He can't come up with more names.
Oh, I like that.
That's like, in the first season, there was almost an instance of that. Not as bad as being in the same episode, but like the next episode, like, weren't there two Gabriels in a row? Like there was Gabriel Pitone, and then in the next episode, there was like a Gabriel something. In Avenging Angel.
Yeah,
There was another Gabriel. It's like, hold on, like, we just had two Gabriels? Like, that's,
yeah.
come on,
I don't know.
guys.
Well, that's more of this synchronicity episode to episode, which I'll talk about later.
Maybe it's all collapsing in on itself.
Unspoil things. Yeah.
Barnes arrives at the priest's rectory, and he puts an end to the priest quickly. And that was the clip we played at the top of the episode. So Duncan is too late.
Yep.
So then,
I'm Quentin Barnes. No, I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
so did you guys see the new Ben-Hur trailer?
No, what?
Why are they remaking Ben-Hur?
Good question.
Ben-Hur?
What a pointless.
They're remaking Benjamin Hur.
Who plays Benjamin?
I don't know. I don't know this actor.
Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, it's super. It's like the whole. If you watch the trailer, it's all like Dark Knight music. It's like just thumping drums and cellos, and the carts are exploding. The horses explode. It's crazy. Actually, there's a shot in the trailer of a horse like flipping into the Coliseum stands. It's amazing.
Of course,
exactly. But
I heard that.
in the next scene, Duncan, I guess, has arrived too late, and he's walking away talking to like an EMT. And again, Duncan has like unfettered access to crime scenes.
Yeah.
That's his special power. That's his mutant power.
But
That's right. His extra power.
I love this interaction he has with the EMT because clearly the EMT is like an extra, so they didn't want to pay him if he had dialogue. So they're like, Duncan's like, so are you saying it's been an hour and a half since the murder? And then the EMT looks at him blankly and nods. It's like great.
That's so funny.
Also, again, that whole part of the scene didn't need to exist. Like, eventually Duncan ends up talking to Joe outside and being like, we're too late. It's like, that's the start of the scene, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we didn't make it in time.
So, Keith, do you have anything new and exciting from the Highlander catalog circa 1993?
Are you a Highlander fan? Then you'll love the Highlander-only parking sign. The MacLeod Ordinance of 1592 AD will guarantee your parking space will be reserved for immortals only. When you post this, violators will lose their head parking sign, made of strong weather-resistant steel, size 12 inches wide by 18 inches high. Only 1995.
1995. What a deal.
You said it.
There can be only one parking space.
So back at the antique store, Richie gets a visit from Michael. He shows up and he's got a file in his hand, and he said there was a Watcher outside who I guess gave it to him, and he was like, oh, this is for Duncan MacLeod. So Michael brings it inside for them to check out, and so Richie opens it, and then we're back to the rectory. Duncan meets up with Joe outside the rectory. Joe reveals, he's like, oh, the files are being printed and sent.
So we know they're on the way.
So Billy and Tess are having kind of like a friendly walk through the park, just, kind of talking about their feelings.
And Megazords.
That's right. It's morphin' time. Pooch it.
Pooch it.
What was Billy? Was he Mastodon? No, that was...
No,
he was a
Triceratops. Which is why I always wanted to like him the most, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because Triceratops is a very good dinosaur.
Saber-tooth tiger.
Not a dinosaur.
Oh, and didn't one have a color to it? Wasn't it like pink pterodactyl?
Yeah.
It was just pterodactyl.
No,
pterodactyl.
They were all the same color as their...
I know that, but in one of the incarnations of Power Rangers, didn't somebody say the color? I could swear that's true, that somebody was like, yellow something, and it was like, why is yours the only one that's like yellow? Like, that you have to say what it is.
Interesting.
I remember that for some reason.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Legends of the Hidden Temple? Ooh.
The purple parrots?
The silver monkeys. Silver monkeys.
No, it was the shrine of the silver monkey.
It was the blue barracudas,
the
purple parrots.
What were the other ones?
I don't remember.
Were they all alliterations?
It was silver snakes.
Silver snakes.
They were all alliterative.
And Olmec, the hidden temple.
The temple
The
god.
choice is yours and yours alone.
So Billy's talking about his feelings for his 70-year-old dead girlfriend. And Tessa's like, oh, well, I think it's sweet. And then Billy's like, oh, well, you think it's sweet? And then he gives her a little kiss on the hand.
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
I was creeped out by it.
It's a little much, but I like the guy. He's really nerdy and excited during this whole bit. I don't know. I liked him. Michael Moore, Billy.
Yeah.
Michael Morbilly.
So, from studying the file that they got from Joe, they're able to determine that the prosecutor in Quentin Barnes' case is still alive.
And he's a judge now.
Right. We end up cutting to the Hall of Justice, and this scene is so wacky.
Crazy. So Quentin Barnes is spying on this judge who's mumbling to himself at his desk. He's like, what's the secretary's name?
Luis.
Yeah. Luis, I need those depositions.
Yeah.
Where are you when I need you?
Where's that deposition? Is what he says.
It would come grinding to a halt if you weren't here. It's ridiculous.
You're in the law, Kyle. Is this an accurate representation of a judge's office?
I mean, judge's offices tend to just be offices, but he's staying late and he's by himself, and he's clearly a kooky old man. Yeah. So all bets are off.
Yeah.
The Seacouver judicial system.
As we learned from Bad Day in Building A, is a total clown school. So,
Is this in the same building or is this different?
Oh, it's
I like to imagine that this also took place in Building A.
That would be awesome. I'd be so excited.
Barnes, I guess, then busts in the door, and we don't see what happens, but
Yeah.
he's kind of, the jig is up for this guy.
Yep.
So Duncan picks up Michael from his hotel, and they're on their way to the judge's chambers because I guess Duncan was calling the judge at home, and he wasn't answering. So he must be at work. So they head over to save him. But alas, they are too late. Mm-hmm. And how does the judge die, Kyle?
He somehow is strapped to this thing, like they make an electric chair somehow.
Yeah.
And they go the same way the other guy was killed. No, was it? They showed Barnes throttling him. So what?
But there's a note. And there's a note from Barnes that says, Michael, I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you, Michael. You look pretty, Michael.
It looks like it's superimposed on the paper. It doesn't even look like they actually wrote
I'll have to watch
a
that.
note. It's really weird. I don't know.
So we then get a nice juicy bit of exposition of just Duncan explaining that the Watchers are just not that good at their job.
Yeah.
Right. Because Richie, I think, is highlighting what we talked about earlier of how the hell is there not a picture of this guy?
Yeah.
And Duncan's like, well, it's got to really be hard. Whatever. Don't think about it.
And that clearly was derivative of a writer wondering, hey, wouldn't they have a picture? And they're like, yeah, you're right. We got to figure that out. Let's write that in the script. Yeah. They don't. Problem solved.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're right. They should, but they don't. Sorry.
So Joe calls Mac, and he's like, we got a lead. and he's like, we think that Barnes is back in that insane asylum.
Why?
I was wondering that too. So my only guess is, since they think he's at large, they have sent Watchers to his like old stomping grounds,
I guess.
and somebody saw him go in there. But I agree. It's like I had the same
I
question.
think that's
I was like,
reasonable, honestly.
It's like, all right.
No, like, I don't know. How would you? All you know is you are looking for a person. Go try to find them. I think it's a very eminently reasonable thing to do, to go to places you know they've been in the past.
This is true.
So I think that's worthwhile, especially if you know that he's got a connection to Michael and that this used to be the place where Michael worked.
Right.
I think it's reasonable. I didn't actually have a problem with this bit, and I was actually kind of excited because I thought the asylum was a cool location.
It is a cool
so they're
location.
getting more usage out of
Yeah.
it.
No, I like the way they dress it. Like in the past, it looks like pretty functional. Then it's like dilapidated. It's cool. So Mac and Michael, Mac and Mike, Mike and Ike.
Magic Mac.
Jesus,
Mac and me, Ike.
fuck.
Marley and Mac.
Mac and Michael pull up to the asylum, and
They split up.
they split up. But Mac also says he's like, he's like, I don't sense him, but he's like, it's too far away to tell. And I was like, hold on, in like 4 episodes ago, in like The Hunters, Fitz outside of Darius's church was like, I don't sense him, and he was like a building away.
Yeah.
And so I again am never sure how this proximity alarm works, but it doesn't really matter. I am only bringing it up for humor's sake. I don't fucking care. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, what does matter is that Billy came suited up for battle with his blue sweater vest.
Yep. I was wondering
And
how his
khakis.
sword fits in there. It's like,
He
I
does-
guess it's hidden in his sweater vest.
He doesn't have his sword on him is the answer to that. Because he runs off. He clearly doesn't have it, but I guess I'm not
It's
supposed
his
to.
pants.
As,
Yeah,
you,
it's in his
as you've
pants.
said,
Yeah.
Eamon, the magic of cinema.
That's right. And him being a filmmaker and all. So so they split up, and Mac is like sneaking through the asylum. Who's running the asylum? The patients are.
Or Michael Moore.
That's right. So Mac's sneaking around, and this isn't the first time we're going to be seeing him sneak around the same exact hallways, which I'll complain about later. But he doesn't find Quentin Barnes.
Nope.
And then he hears a scream.
And he runs out. He runs outside.
Yeah.
like this is like a multi-story building. How do
Well,
you?
there's like a window breaks and a scream. Like
Yeah.
someone's been like thrown out a window or
Yep.
something. So he goes to look.
And he doesn't find anything. And then what does he find? A piece
He
of
finds his
paper?
glasses.
Or his glasses.
Yeah, his
Okay.
glasses. And that's it.
Yeah.
Although I do have a comment. I do kind of like the way this episode's shot. Like, I like all the stuff in the asylum. Like, it's a lot of handheld stuff.
Yeah.
The camera's kind of floating around behind people. I think it looks pretty cool in there. Gives a good feel to it. So,
Yeah.
that's a plus.
It is.
So then Mac ends up getting a call from Barnes. He says that he killed Michael, and he's like, "Hey, you can come and find us. You'll be able to recognize me because I'm the one with the head."
And he's like, come back to the asylum. So
Yes,
I'm like,
they've already left, and now they're just going
you're
back.
making him go back again? This made me so angry.
That was
agreed.
irritating. I was
Yeah.
like, "Come on."
And then it's the exact same sequence. He's like literally looking through the same hallways. They don't even like change the hallways.
Well, like there was the thing that's kind of funny is it's like a bait and switch. Like the
Yeah.
entire point is to get Mac out of the antique store.
Yeah. So when Mac leaves, Tess is worried about him.
Yeah.
And has this kind of amazing interaction with Richie. So we should
God.
play this clip. So
Yeah.
Richie is like, he's asking if there's anything he can do to help Tess. And then Tess loses her mind.
Let me know what you want me to do.
We need more inventory, more shelf space. And I can't be spending all my time doing this. I have my own work.
Look, Tess, I'm worried about Mac too, but he can take care of himself.
Don't you think I know that?
Fine, hey, I'm sorry. You know, sometimes I just say some things, open mouth, insert foot.
I'm sorry, Richie.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
they
sorry.
say.
And this is another tender
It's okay.
moment.
Yep.
They're just full
It's
of
just
tender
that-
moments here.
Sometimes
This is so soap opera-y.
I
And
tell
it's all, like,
myself
lit
that
from
this
above.
is the way it is. That it's my choice that I'm with him. It's been 12 years. You'd think I'd learn.
Learn what, Tess? Learn not to be human? Learn not to love him so much? Hey, come on. Give yourself a break.
Their faces are very close together.
Yep.
You know what I always do when I'm worried about something?
Make out. Yank it.
I don't know, so maybe you could tell me.
Oh, and then they do a hug.
Thanks a
And he
lot.
like kind of smells her.
There is definitely something wacky going on here. So this scene happened because the two actors were like, "Hey, can we have something to do? Can we have a scene where we say anything?"
We do anything.
Yeah,
because
so
they are not. in
Richie
this
and Tess are
episode.
marginalized for the past like 3 episodes.
Like, this scene is bullshit. When I was watching it at home, I was just like, blah, 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 blah. Like,
The one thing that was a little interesting is this is the second episode in a row that's directly like, Tess, do you sure you want to be with Mac?
yeah.
Like, very overtly. Like,
Right.
Gregor in the previous episode, what did we decide his nickname was? Launchpad McBlain?
Yeah.
Launchpad McBlain is immediately like, are you sure you want to be with this guy even though
Yeah.
you're going to grow old and die?
Yeah.
And then here she's again like, I tell myself this is normal, but this is terrible.
yeah.
So that could be interesting fodder if those threads continue to be developed throughout the season.
Yeah.
Maybe
agreed.
they will be.
Thoughts?
Or maybe they won't.
Richie ends this whole little thing with like a joke, which
Yeah.
to me doesn't even make sense. Like the dialogue goes, he's like, you know what I always do when something bothers me? And Tess is like, no. And he's like, oh, I thought you know, I don't. Like, it's like, wait, you asked the question, like, you do know. Like, I don't understand what that is.
No,
Like,
he's like, it's like, you know what I do? Like, he's asking her if she knows what he does.
the joke would have been, the joke should not be, you know what I do when something bothers me? It should be something like, do you know what they say when something bothers you? Because then the answer to, like, then Richie can legitimately not know the answer to, do
Right,
you know what, quote unquote, they say?
Yeah, not like, do you know what I myself do?
Yeah, and it's like, we frankly do know what you do, and so do you, because you're the one doing it. Like,
What's
Wait,
supposed to
how
be,
do we know?
well, we don't, well, we can view it, viewer,
It's supposed
whatever.
to be like he's like dumb Richie, like
Sure, yep, dumb Richie indeed.
No, I think it's I agree that it's like 2 words away from being written accurately.
Yeah.
But it's cute.
I guess,
fine.
also, if this was a soap opera, which this feels
Yeah.
really soap opera-y, these two characters are about to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Up
you
and
need is
down.
some Vaseline smeared
Yeah.
on the lens.
No, because this whole like setup in a soap opera is fodder for an affair happening. Mm-hmm. That would have really been interesting too.
I mean, maybe that might happen.
Uh-oh.
We don't know.
Spoiler alert. Richie bangs Tess. Fanfic.
Spoiler alert, that might happen in the story Eamon is writing. Oh, good God. Gross. Not gross, but fanfic.
So
Ugh.
we don't really need to talk too much about the next scene because we've already seen it once. Duncan wanders around the asylum doing nothing.
But this time he has his trench coat.
Right, so it's more exciting and thrilling.
Yep. But then he also finds a dead body
Ooh. And we don't know who this
of
is
a character we haven't seen, so why should we care?
Yeah, we don't have any. We just are like, oh, somebody died. And
Yep.
eventually we find out that was a Watcher.
It was Josh.
Josh!
Josh! Josh! Why?
So while Duncan's away, Michael returns back to the antique store. And
Fake out!
He's
Yeah.
all tattered and
He's all
torn.
busted up.
So Tess is, I guess, kind of fixing him up,
Yeah.
bandaging his wounds. And he's like, oh, I don't really need this. I'm almost fixed anyway because
Yeah.
I'm a magical creature.
Yeah.
I'm a centaur.
And then he starts having like a weird headache.
Yeah, there's like a weird, like, it kind of sounds like a didgeridoo, but I also think it kind of sounds like burping. When it gets really deep, it just sounds like someone burping like into a microphone and then slowing it down.
Does this sound like the real sound of a didgeridoo? Annoying.
So something's going on with Mike Moore.
He just needs to take some Tylenol.
Right.
Duncan and Joe meet up at the asylum, and this is where Joe reveals, like, do you know who that is? That's Josh. Like, we're supposed to know who Josh is.
You know who that is, you Philistine?
Yeah.
You heathen?
That's Josh. And I didn't really understand this file business. I
Looks
got a
like
little
Barnes got
confused.
the J-Man.
Mr. J.
This is the
Sorry,
prequel to Suicide Squad. What is this file thing? What?
So Josh had the file.
Right.
Josh would only have given it to Mac.
Okay.
And he's like, "Did you see Josh?" And he's like, "No, I didn't see Josh." He's like, "Well, that's Josh." So that's how Joe figures out that Michael killed Josh, because Michael is the one who gave him the file. And Josh would not have given the file to anyone but Mac directly.
Oh, for some reason, that makes so much more sense. I got confused, and I was like, especially because the way this is edited, like the timeline seems weird, because when Joe meets up with Mac at the rectory after the priest dies, he's like, oh, the files are being printed and sent over. And it's like, oh, so they're not even done yet. But according to the editing of the episode, like, Richie already got the files. So part of me thought this guy had the real files, and Barnes gave Richie, like, fake files, which is also
dummy files,
which also I wondered led into the idea of, like, that's why they were so lame. Like, they don't have a picture, they're really, like, sparse, and it's because Barnes has, like, just put together some dummy thing and given it to them,
taking out all the information, like taking out the photo that would have blown up his spot.
Maybe, yeah, that's what I initially thought it was. But it makes more sense the way you're saying that, like, Barnes killed the guy, took the file, and gave it to Mac. Yeah. But I'm still a little confused because of the timeline.
But why give him the file at all?
Maybe it's both. Maybe he did gut the file before giving it to
he
him.
could have gutted the file. Yeah.
Weird stuff. Michael, back in the antique store, says he wants to head back to the hotel because he's been having these, like, weird headaches, and he's going to head out. And he's, like, being a weird creeper towards Tess.
He, like, tries to touch her face.
Yeah, he's getting a little touchy and weird.
It's not good. Tess is not into it at all.
Yeah, so he says...
I mean, he's no Richie Ryan.
No, he's not virile or young.
But so he starts getting these sharp pains, and she's like, well, go to the bathroom, like...
Take medicine.
It, dude.
There's medicine.
Squad a duke.
So Richie inquires about all this. He's like, oh, what's up with Big Mike? And Tess is like, oh, he's feeling sick. And then Richie says...
Hey, you know what? I'll take care of it.
No, he says, do Immortals get sick?
Oh, right.
Our question of the week, maybe. I don't know. Do Immortals get sick? And I was like, oh, good question, Richie, and we should talk about this. And as we've said before on this show, we are going to pose this question, obviously to you right now, but also on Facebook. Send us your responses. Write them on Facebook, and also send them to HighlanderRewatched@gmail.com, and we'll read the best ones on air. But we're going to talk about this a little amongst ourselves and what we think of the question, do Immortals get sick? What do you guys think?
No.
Why? Prove it.
All right, so here's my theory.
Okay.
One of the things that we have established is that Immortals will, like, die and come back. But there are so many non-fatal but persistent diseases. A lot of Immortals would just be permanently stricken with diseases that would never kill them if they could actually get sick. Also, like, imagine if an Immortal contracted, like, I don't know, if they got, like, gonorrhea or something like that, or syphilis. Would it, like, drive them mad in the era before penicillin but never kill them?
Yeah.
Good question.
Or cancer. I mean, I don't know. Would an Immortal get cancer, and would the cancer just grow? Or
I don't know.
Also, that would be really shitty, because if so, like, there'd be some moment where for maybe years at a time, you're really weak.
Yeah.
Because of this illness. Like, if it's a slow-acting illness, you might just have this illness for a really long time before it kills you. And then, you know, Slan the Cat comes knocking on the door, and you're just screwed because, like, because, you know, this iteration of you has cancer.
Right.
And until it kills you, you're out of commission.
Also, all these guys were alive when, you know, medicine was shit, and they all lived. You know what I mean? Like, they all would have, if they could get sick, they all would have been sick, like, back in ye olden times when everybody died of everything.
Right. So I'm not sure. I will cite one of our previous conversations as evidence that they can. But Kyle,
you're citing us as evidence?
Yeah. Well, just the conclusion we came to, and I will cite one of our favorite episodes, Deadly Medicine.
It's got medicine right there in the title.
Exactly, so it's got to be.
So it's got to be good.
No, because I was thinking about this. It's like, oh, can they get sick? Kyle, you bring up good points. Like, well, what if you just are perpetually sick? That seems to be a wrinkle in this. That doesn't work too well. But we had talked about Immortals getting, like, drugged and drunk. We know they can get drunk, and we actually had a conversation about like, oh well, they can probably get drunk because it's like a temporary thing. We compared it, I think, to like a toxin, and it would run its course. And so I would wonder, it's like, well, a cold would kind of be maybe the same thing. Like you get a bacterial infection, it might run its course.
The virus.
Well, or that's yes. Sorry, whatever, Dr. Kyle.
Rhinovirus.
But I was kind of curious if it works kind of the same way. Like if they can get drunk, then they can probably get a cold.
I disagree.
Why?
Because one is a chemical that is cycled through your brain.
Everything is a chemical.
And another one is physically combated by your immune system. Like, I have no problem believing that, like, your immune system as an immortal is impenetrable in some way and is able to ward off all, like, viruses and bacteria. But if, like, you're injected with a toxin, you gotta just process it.
I would say that it would act quicker.
You just have a hyper fast cold.
Like, yeah, you would maybe get a little sick, but
you'd have a hyper fast batch of cholera.
Right. And then I would also say that might apply even for the drinking, is that you would need to drink a lot because your body is constantly repairing that sort of stuff.
It's kind of like Wolverine.
I don't know. But I feel like those two things are related a little bit. Like, they're both doing something to your body. And if we allow one, we probably need to make room for the other.
But also, illnesses have incubation periods in a way that toxins don't necessarily.
All right. So what do you think about this out in podcast land? Let us know what you think of the question. Can immortals get sick? We will read the best answers on air. We can't wait to hear from you. Remember, it's HighlanderRewatched@gmail.com. So on with the episode. All right, so Michael's freaking out in the bathroom, and we hear him scream, "No!"
We hear him yell, "It's morphin' time!" And then he becomes Quentin Barnes.
Isn't this the weird part where Richie's like, "Hey, you know what, Tess? I'll take care of this."
Richie'll take the case.
Richie does.
But he doesn't seem alarmed at this man screaming in their bathroom.
No. So Michael is in the bathroom writing with lipstick.
Or no, he sees lipstick. No, he calls Tess in, and there's lipstick writing on the thing. And he's like, "Barnes is here."
Like in the house.
Yeah, so then Testa goes out, and Richie's like, "Oh, what's wrong? Oh, Barnes is in the house?"
I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's going to go up against Barnes if he's really there. So yeah, there's...
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I'm just shaking my head at the
ludicrousness.
situation. Yeah.
The situation, my favorite.
So there's a bunch of lipstick on the mirror, and it says, "Get ready, Michael. I'm coming." I really wanted Michael to rub the lipstick on his lips.
He was going to. They at one point he just brings out and just stares as he twists it up. Like it looked like he was just about to apply it liberally.
So the twist here is that Michael and Quentin Barnes are one and the same.
Wait, what?
It took me longer than I cared to admit to realize that it was the same. That explained why they never had shown Quentin Barnes in any of the shots. And why they violated so many show don't tell rules.
Yep.
They're always telling you things that Quentin Barnes did. And I'm just like, show me. It's a visual medium.
Then Quentin Barnes comes out of the bathroom. And Richie tries to fight him.
Who's now the Blue Ranger? Is Michael is Quentin Barnes?
Right.
Yeah.
If that was not painstakingly clear from what we'd said.
And Quentin Barnes kicks the shit out of Richie.
Well, serious face punching involved.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Richie punches him twice.
Yeah.
And so I had two thoughts on this. First, I was like, oh man, Barnes is superhuman. He's unstoppable. And then I was like, it's just Richie punching. Yeah. This guy's not doing anything. Yeah. It's just Richie being a little wimp.
That was the power of the Triceratops fusing every part of his body.
And then after he dispatches of Richie, he comes up to Tess and he's like, "It's me, Quentin Barnes." It's me?
It's me, Mario Barnes.
It's not a very threatening way for him to introduce himself, but he does have a deep voice.
Yeah.
And he's like carrying himself differently.
Yeah, he's like standing up super straight and tall. He's got like kind of a menacing look. He's not like, I'm Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, do you guys remember when this episode started in a gym? Anybody remember
Yeah,
that?
that's it was like a lifetime ago.
He's flipping out to Tess. Tess punches him a couple times as well.
Yeah, and he's saying like, "Oh, you led me on," just like all the rest of them. Like I knew what that walk in the park was all about.
Yeah, it's creepy.
It's
Yeah.
weird, and it also
Richie is right there.
Yeah,
It's our main man.
that's right.
it also paints this strange like parallel that like
Is Barnes like a weird, like twisted version of Michael's like psyche or whatever you want to
Well,
call
I-
it?
Frustration.
well, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say is that it by him talking about like, oh, you led me on, this is what the others did too, like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, is this supposed to be like an allegory for like he's some sort of sexual predator
Yeah.
that like recontextualizes like women's niceness or something, or just, you know, like typical human behavior as like
Right.
a sexual advance towards him.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, but like that's not really set up in this episode. In another world, this episode could be entirely about someone that like it has a misunderstanding of what women like their actions are to him. Like this is an episode about a sexual predator.
Or just
And-
a guy that's mad about being friend zoned.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Which is such a problematic phrase to begin with.
No,
Like
it's
perpetuated
terrible.
by people who have the exact problem we're discussing.
Yep.
Oh, you've been nice to me. I'm entitled to
Yeah.
a romantic relationship with you. Not good.
No.
So like,
Teach
are
them
we
to love me.
Yeah. So like, are we now supposed to like rethink the initial relationship? Like this woman Colbert, Jeanette,
Oh.
were they even anything? Was she just a nurse at the same place where he works? And
That's a good question. I didn't think
That
about
is
that.
a good question.
Because
yeah.
who
And
knows if
he-
Duncan really knew her that well? Like he
Yeah.
might have just heard from from Michael that like, oh, I'm in love. Like I've got this person. Like maybe they were just acquaintances or work companions.
I don't think this show is that subtle, but it's
That
an
would be really
interesting
interesting
point.
that that's
Yeah.
there.
I don't know. I was wondering about that.
We gotta-
I don't know that there's ways to know with what's presented in this episode one way or another. But
Interesting. So there's a fight. Duncan shows up.
Yep.
He's onto this whole thing.
once again, the Blue Ranger suited up for battle
Yeah.
with his khakis and his gray tucked in sweatshirt
Yeah.
and his like brown loafers,
Yeah.
which they keep. There's like 3 shots of people's feet during this fight scene, and it's just like his gross stained loafers.
Yeah.
It's so goofy.
He pulls a sword out of nowhere in typical Highlander fashion. And
He pulls
Duncan-
it out from under the sweatshirt.
And then Duncan throws him like out the door
Yeah.
into who knows where they
Like,
are now.
why is there
How did they get there?
I have no
They're like
idea.
in a train yard.
Why is there a train yard right out front of the antique shop?
It's so
I
crazy. like-
love this set, but what?
Well, it's clear. Like clearly, they had these two things. Like they knew because of like the mechanics of the story that this scene had to take place in the antique shop, presumably. Like
Right.
that's where this Barnes reveals himself. But I guess then they were like, well, I don't want to. Like we can't have the fight in the antique shop. Like
Yeah.
that won't be interesting. So let's do it somewhere else. How do we get there? I don't know. Throw him out the door and we'll just cut. Like, and that's what they do. He like
Yeah.
runs a little bit and then suddenly they're in some industrial park. thing,
Yeah.
like where there's just like machinery everywhere.
And like train bits.
Right.
Yeah.
Train bits.
So they're having a good old sword fighty.
Well, Barnes is fighting Adrian Paul's stunt double a lot
Yeah.
because you can totally tell there's a stunt double flipping all over the place,
Yep.
which is pretty good.
How did you guys feel about this fight scene?
I liked 50% of it.
Yeah.
Which 50%?
The part that didn't have a barrel throw, and also the part where they just weren't hopping back and forth on
There's
trains.
a lot
like,
of hopping back
Yeah.
and forth between
like they're
trains.
just kind of run around. The part where it started to get good to me was at some point.
It's right after the barrel throw.
It's right after-
immediately after that.
Immediately
Yeah.
after that, they run down like a corridor in between
Yeah.
two like hoop house sort of things, and it's like kind of a cool shot just because it's dramatic looking. But then suddenly the fight, like the choreography, gets like
Yeah.
kind of fast and furious. And
Really fast.
It's
Duncan
great.
goes on the attack.
Yeah.
It's a Mac attack.
It is a Mac attack.
Of course.
So let's be real though. It gets good with the barrel throw.
Yeah, I guess
The barrel throw is amazing.
barrel throw is amazing.
I saw they shoot. There's like an establishing shot of the barrel.
Yeah.
And my notes just say yes, yes, yes. And then Barnes grabs the barrel
Very
growls,
slowly. Yeah.
and very slowly just Donkey Kongs this
Yeah.
barrel.
And Duncan's just like, ugh. He like kind of like
He literally
steps
jumps
out of the way.
Yeah, like he literally jumps away like someone just shot a loogie at him. He's like, ugh, gross.
And then Barnes follows up this barrel throw with the line, "I spy with my little eye something that is dead."
Yeah.
And then jumps down. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And there's one.
It's me, Quentin Barnes.
It's me, Quentin Barnes.
So at some point, not necessarily now, but we need to establish a Megazord of Highlander villains. Obviously, Quentin Barnes is the Blue Ranger, but we need to complete that Megazord
I like
this is
this.
food for thought.
for next
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
Not necessarily next time, but you know.
We have lots of characters to get through, so I'm excited to see who's going to come up and who's
Yeah.
going to be part of this team.
And it's not necessarily the 5 best. It's just
the
got to be.
5 that fit into this mold.
Yeah.
It just has to be the 5 that complete the Megazord.
So
Morphin' time! And it's worth noting during this, he is morphing back and forth between Quentin Barnes and I'm Michael again.
Yeah,
It's me,
yeah.
Michael Moore.
So there's a lot of heavy acting going on
yeah,
here.
and also this guy's sword fighting style is crazy. Like he was really physical, to the point where it almost looked like he was flailing. But I appreciated it. Like he was really wild and big, and I liked it a lot. It was awesome. So
This actor's working hard.
I like this guy.
I like this guy too.
Actually, and I still like it. I still haven't watched an episode of Forever Night, but after seeing this episode again and knowing that he's the star of it, I would definitely be I'll see more Billy.
Yeah.
Billy the Blue
Billy,
Ranger.
that's right.
Billy Barnes!
It's me, Billy Barnes.
So they end up working their way into one of these hoop house sort of things.
Yeah, and Duncan finally just kind of gets the upper hand on him.
Yeah, this scene it has cool lighting. It's
Yeah,
kind of
the
all
fan is
the fans going around. There's a lot of silhouettes. You watch them fight kind of in shadow on the wall, which is cool. Duncan stabs him, and I guess at this point that snaps Mr. Barnes out of his state. And Michael's you should kill me because that's the whole point. But Michael admits that he never knew what was going on. He truly has some weird split personality.
Right.
And he's you have to kill Barnes. That's the whole point of this. Duncan doesn't want to, but he's nope, you got to do it. And so that's what's going to happen. And it's got some cool mood. It was very Lynchian to me. Right before Duncan chops his head off, all you hear is the fan. And it's just I don't know. I love that sort of stuff in David Lynch movies, where there's just kind of
And hey, it's kind of like Killer Bob.
yeah, Killer Bob, yeah. And it's just got kind of sounds in the background, humming and whirling, and it's uncomfortable sounding. It's pretty cool. So anyway, Duncan bops his head off.
Yeah.
That's that.
And has a fairly straightforward quickening, but
This quickening is weird.
I have a couple things about this. So I have mentioned this belching sound before. This quickening opens up again with the sound. I want to play a clip to see if you guys think this sounds like a belch at all. So here we go. So this is the kind of opening of Duncan's quickening. So it's maybe a little hard to hear because there's music, there's the lightning stuff, but I think it's pretty clear when someone burps into the microphone, just like Kyle did. Here we go.
So yeah, that is definitely a belch. But then Duncan's Mr. Barnes. So Duncan has this pained look on his face, and he's just standing there, and he's raising one arm like he's about to give a fucking soliloquy. And then, as the quickening goes on, his face, he's kind of making a frowny face. Then it turns into this weird, barfing Marlon Brando face, and he still has the one arm up. And I'm just what the fuck is he doing? I mean, I know he has to come up with a quickening every episode, and that must be really tough.
Oh, yeah.
But this one's weird.
and then he very slowly, as it ends, lowers his hand down.
That's when it got weird for me. Was he lowered his hand down to crotch height, he's kneeling, and he's just and he whispers, he's Michael, and he's got his hand. I was are you holding your limp dick? And Michael.
Did you see his barf face though?
I didn't notice that.
He's making this face where he's like, bleh. It like looks like he's barfing. I swear to God, you had to go back and watch.
We'll
it.
have to put this whole
It's
quickening
really
on Facebook.
weird. This is the weirdest quickening ever.
Michael.
But this is very sad. And is this the end? Is there anything after
Then
this?
we cut back to the gym finally to bring, to bring that plot full circle.
Which, by the way, third friend Duncan is killed on this show.
Oh, yeah.
More
yes.
than that, right?
No,
Or
so,
no.
so he killed Gabriel Pitone.
Yes.
He killed who else? And he kills Marcus.
Yeah, so he kills two of his friends, and now we've got number 3. He's just racking up bodies.
And he's lost Darius,
Yeah.
so he lost another friend.
Yeah, this is dark times for
This
Mac.
is dark times. And also to heed the words of Tess from The Beast Below, enlightened societies don't kill the insane. They treat them.
Right.
Duncan's just like flop, like gone with your head, like...
Well, Tess isn't around right now.
And this guy's literally begging for death.
I guess so.
And he's very dangerous.
Yeah, this
And
is
he's
true.
been
So is
crazy,
Ursa.
and he's been crazy since the 20s.
Ursa's been crazy forever.
Well, the Ursa thing I agree with because he's a murderer who never paid for his crime. Like,
Mr.
Actually, yeah, in a
Manager.
way, Barnes actually has paid for his crime.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was at least executed and was
and
underground for
buried
30 years.
for 30 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he just killed like 6 more people.
Oh, yeah,
so-
No, it's bad news.
He did. He's a bad guy.
It's tricky, though. Like, this insanity thing is like, that always, we saw it with Gregor. Like, you know,
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad guy. And especially with Michael. Like, this is
Right.
clearly like two different people almost. Like, and it's like, well,
Well, at the very least, Gregor didn't actually murder somebody, even though he kind of tried to help kill people in a way.
yeah. Hey guys, have you liked us on Facebook? You totally should. If you haven't subscribed to us on iTunes or Stitcher, do that too and leave us a nice review. Like these amazing people. We want to thank HollyMac79, Corey Hames Pizza Delivery, MW2 Gun Guru, CCFMDS, Eric of the Dead, Warren Seeker, Ken Shear of Fist, Flashfan number 1, Prefab Doombot, K Spinelli, and Killdozer88 for their awesome 5-star reviews. Guys, we haven't gotten a chance to thank you for your 5-star reviews yet on the show, but it's really great. We really appreciate the kind and encouraging words. And thanks everybody out there for listening. So,
Especially prefabricated Doombot. I like that name.
that's pretty good.
Hey, and if you give us a review, we'll thank you on the show in a future episode too.
So now we're back at the gym, and Mac is actually doing the martial arts routine that is featured in the opening credits, where he
Yeah.
like kicks the window into an explosion.
Right.
I actually like this sequence. It's
cool.
really long, but I like it.
And they use some of the footage like
6 times.
Yeah, they
This
just
is
keep replaying it.
serious padding.
Yeah.
And then they put it through like various kaleidoscope kind of filters. And also my main note is that Duncan is a cat again.
Yeah.
Because he's literally making hissing sounds over. He's going as he's like just doing these routines. I found it very funny, honestly. But
It's silly, but I liked it.
he's a sweaty mess though.
And
Yeah.
he's like super ripped. All I could think about actually was my mom, because like, and I like people that
gross.
Oh yeah, that's it. No, it's like, well, she always was like, Duncan's a beefcake, and it's like, yeah, this is the scene where you're like, yeah, Duncan's a beefcake, like doing all sorts of weird naked martial arts.
Weird naked martial arts.
That's what this style's called, right?
That's
Weird
right.
naked
Yep.
style. But then it does.
It's
like a
actually
weird-
called Monkey Grabs Peach.
There you go.
But then it does some like it does some weird like split screen thing.
Yeah, where there's two Duncans.
There's two Duncans, and I was like,
That's the weird kaleidoscope thing.
well,
It's so
yeah,
weird.
and it's like, oh, like, is this supposed to be symbolic of like a dual nature? Like,
no.
I mean,
I think it's
that's
supposed
why
to be.
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing, but they were like,
Really?
we need to turn like 2 minutes of footage into 5 minutes of footage
I
to
think
get this thing over.
They were just like, we can do this cool camera thing during this. Let's do it.
So
and
then-
we're out of money.
They were
so
out
let's
of
do
money.
it.
So then Joe shows up, and
Yeah.
so
To say nothing.
Yeah.
Joe just drops in on a place that isn't his, that he's not a member to say nothing.
Yep. Well,
Yep.
he's just checking Mac out. He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know I got into
kitty,
the
hiss.
watching business.
Yeah.
But yeah, two things. Like,
I'm
what?
getting
How
it.
does Joe get in here at all? And how does Duncan get in? Like, does he have keys?
He's
like,
a member now.
Does that mean you get? I mean, I don't know how private gyms work. Do you get keys to a private gym? Is that part of their privateness? Like
yeah.
they're so elite and invite only that like you're trusted with.
I guess today you'd have like a fob, probably.
Yeah.
He got a key, he got a gym bag, he got a little T-shirt. You got the
He's
whole
not wearing
9
the
yards.
T-shirt here, though.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
he's
So it ends with Mac.
working up a sweat.
Mac wishes Michael eternal peace,
Yeah,
and that's
like,
the end.
The Joe Dawson interaction is puzzling.
Yeah.
Joe just shows up, and he's like, oh, I lost a friend.
And he's like, "So did I."
Yeah.
And then
that's
Joe
it.
leaves. It's
Yeah.
like, she just came to say, like, oh, Josh!
Yeah. Well,
Josh!
he says, I lost a friend, and then Duncan hisses like for 30 seconds. And then as Joe's leaving, he's like, hey, Joe, me too.
Do you think Joe's supposed to be showing up to kind of put a little blame on Mac? Like, you said you weren't going to help me, and this is what happened. But also, I would argue that Mac said he wasn't going to help, and then kind of helped 10 minutes later. Like,
Yeah.
like how much time went
I don't-
by before Mac
I don't know.
was involved that Josh died? I don't know.
I don't know how we're
Like, I
supposed
couldn't blame Mac
to
for
read
this.
this.
It's weird. We say that so much about this show.
Yep.
This is weird.
Yep.
It is very weird. Yeah, that's the episode.
That's the episode.
So I have something I want to posit about the last 2 episodes we've watched. And this is a theory I had before.
All right.
How every set of 2 episodes, and this my theory is kind of defunct because of the Watchers episode, although I guess you could argue that the Watcher episode is coupled with the Hunters. Mm-hmm. So let's take this episode and the one previous. What was it called?
Study of Light.
Studies in light.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, so let's take this episode and the episode's Studies in Light. Let's look at the similarities here. You have an old friend of Duncan's coming back from the past in both episodes.
Right.
Both of these old friends are doctors, and both of them have this weird mental problem that turns them against Duncan and makes them like an enemy. I feel like every 2 episodes, there's some similar thread. And then in Saving Grace, there's like Grace is an old girlfriend. And then the next episode is The Lady and the Tiger. Amanda's an old girlfriend.
Do you
Yeah,
think
there is this odd thread. And there's even
there's-
like weird little symbol related threads. Like
Right.
that, we kind of ragged on it, but that like weird photography beat in the park before they have the first flashback of the episode. The entire last episode was about 2 photographers, and they very prominently feature this photography moment.
I've noticed it a bunch, and I want to go back to season 1 and find more because I know there are
that's
more.
interesting?
but
Do you think that could be? Do you think that's like a writing strategy? Do you think they
It could
pitch
be.
like a very general idea to two writers and are
Yeah.
like, come up with stories about this, and they have thematically very similar things? I don't know. That's very strange.
Yeah, I keep noticing it. So I'm going to point it out in the future
We'll have
if
to
it
ask.
happens again.
Let's ask David about that.
Yeah.
Maybe you've uncracked the code.
The Da Vinci
Uncracked it.
Code.
Uncracked it?
You've in fact encrypted it.
Whatever, man. Unlocked. I combined unlocked and cracked. Uncracked. All right. So if I do rewrite this episode a little bit, Highlander rewrite, I guess I don't know. This episode is weird.
It's very weird. It's like Psycho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm not sure. One of the things I do like about this show is like the moral core. As we get deeper and deeper into it, and Abramowitz talked about that's what he liked about the show as well. We have that in common. Hey. But I was kind of wondering this whole time. I was like, what's the moral question in this show? Like in
Yeah.
this episode, and I was struggling to kind of figure that out. Like I don't know what the question is. It's just a weird Jekyll and Hyde sort of mystery thing that gets revealed.
Do you or don't you throw a barrel?
You do.
Do a barrel roll. To do a barrel roll, press Z twice.
That was always fun. It struck me kind of at the end of the episode when Duncan's doing his like kata moves and like it goes into split screen. I was like, oh, like they're playing with some duality thing. And I was like, well, there's an episode like duality, but like they never delve into that at all.
No.
No, it's just Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wish kind of they maybe explored like, does Duncan have 2 sides? Does everyone have 2 sides? And like, and it's about how do you control that other side? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe there could be a great. We've talked about how Tess. I'm just brainstorming off the top of my head now. Like, Tess and Richie have not done too much this episode. And it's like, hey, maybe Richie has a run, like a subplot where he runs into like some like old friends and like who knows what, but like maybe Richie's got a temper problem and wants to fight, or you know what I mean? Like, and
He's Marty McFly.
yeah, exactly. No, like exactly that sort of like very simplistic sort of story arc you could take the character on, but it would at least demonstrate it's like, well, everyone has two sides and you get to choose which one you either show to the world or how you treat that other side, or, you know, I don't know. I feel like there's territory here that is worth exploring, and I don't think Barnes is necessarily like, I feel like this Jekyll and Hyde plot is not awful or anything. Like, this seems like okay episodic TV. I don't think this is great or anything, but there's something more that could have been done here, and I think they didn't do it. So,
Eamon, your thoughts?
I don't really have any. I mean, I think it's just this episode was all about the twist, a la M.
What the
Night
twist?
Shyamalan. That's right. It's just like, oh, this guy was the bad guy all along. I don't know.
oh, I was just gonna say, it's also hard for me to like. I feel like we all eventually saw this twist being telegraphed. Also, like,
Right.
I've seen this episode before. It took me like maybe 10 minutes to remember kind of what. Oh, I was like, oh yeah, this episode. Like, I remember
Yeah.
what's happening. But I feel like even if this was a new episode, like you would see the twist coming fairly early on, like by halfway probably. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I was about halfway through. I did not have an independent recollection of this episode, but about halfway through, I was like, oh, it's him. But I feel like there were other ways to have a twist added in. And the thing that I was kind of hoping for, that they went a different direction on. So it takes a while before they reveal that Michael has always been Quentin Barnes. What if, and this was the theory that I had.
This is good.
That Quentin Barnes does kill this girl at some point. I suppose there are two ways you could go. Either sometime in the 40s, Michael catches up with Quentin Barnes and he's so consumed with revenge that, you know, he kills him and then effectively becomes him, either as a result of the quickening or just like the mental anguish of doing it. Or maybe the story that they tell is true. Like, Quentin Barnes is an independent person who gets executed, who is dug up by construction workers, and then that yell that you hear is Michael taking down Quentin Barnes. Like, he actually beats him, and when they open the door, who falls out but dead Quentin Barnes, not that Watcher. And then, for whatever reason, Michael, either because of his like obsession with vengeance and the fact that his life no longer has meaning, or because of the quickening overpowers him, assumes Quentin Barnes is. I think either version of that might be a little more compelling.
That's what I was gonna kind of hinting at. Like, I don't know. Like, again, we're living in 2016. Like, and we saw this plot coming kind of a mile away. If this was 1993, maybe would I have not been as surprised? I'm not sure. Like, just the television culture at the time, would this have been more of a twist? But that's exactly what I was thinking, that I wish they had telegraphed that this would be the twist. It's like, oh, it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and then it's not, or it's not the version of Jekyll and Hyde you'd imagine. I like your interpretation, Kyle. I like that he would be maybe driven by vengeance and took up this mantle just because it gave his life meaning to kind of perpetuate this search for vengeance. Ooh, that's a Highlander DVD.
Yoshiaki
Search for Vengeance?
The Search for Vengeance.
Kawajiri.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that would be a much more compelling episode and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even if there wasn't a twist, like, what if Moore hated Barnes so much because of maybe he saw some of himself in Barnes, like with Barnes's hatred of how like he thinks women are leading him on, and like Moore Moore shares some of these feelings. I don't know. Like, maybe there doesn't have to be a twist.
Right.
It could be two characters. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And we also talked about, like, I remember in season 1 with Reinhardt, that we were like, that was one of the first villains we were like, oh, this would be an interesting like season long villain. Like, you could go another direction with this character and maybe even have people suspicious of Michael Moore's like intentions. And it's like, maybe Duncan thinks like, no, you're messed up. Like, none of us have ever seen him. The Watchers haven't. He's like, no, this is real.
Yeah.
And we could maybe revisit this character every couple episodes, and maybe Barnes is real and we see him at the end. Like, that's another version of this story that would be at least better than this. Like,
That would be amazing if Duncan and this guy scrap because Duncan's like, no, like Barnes isn't real.
Right.
And then they fight and like, you know,
because
Duncan-
Barnes is clearly some crazy mastermind. And the reveal could be that Barnes finally reveals himself and kills Michael. And it's like, that's the season finale. And it's like, oh, look forward to season 3's villain, Barnes. Like,
Yeah,
and Duncan's now got to find Barnes and take him out because he's real, and Duncan's nonchalantness about it cost his friend's life. Uh-oh.
Bum, bum, bum. Maybe Michael Moore is making an expose documentary about immortals. And
Maybe the villain of season 3 is just global warming. No, sorry, that's just the plot of Highlander 2.
Oh, my God.
oh no!
So, the Watcher Chronicles, this episode, not too much interesting stuff, although the chronicle for Mr. Michael Moore is pretty amazing, again, in its writing style, and the dark past they reveal is fantastic. So, mild-mannered Michael Moore and depraved serial killer Quentin Barnes, one and the same guy. Who would have thought? In hindsight, I guess it's obvious to me. The clues were all there. Watchers losing track of Moore, other Watchers far away picking up on the Barnes trail, only to lose him again. Then we lost Moore for over 30 years. The same 30 years Barnes lay murdered after trying in the electric chair for murdering 2 young women. I'm no shrink, but looking back over Michael Moore's early records, it's probable he had some serious mental disorders before his first death. He was taken from an orphanage at a young age and ill-used by his foster family. Perhaps even sexually abused. Yikes.
Whoa. Yeah. That's casual. Very casual.
Yep. His first death was clearly an act of desperation. A suicide. This is so dark.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Imagine what it must be like to come back from a death like that to find out you can't die, no matter how much you want to realize you're trapped for an eternity with your demons. Wow. No wonder the guy went nuts.
Who is this Watcher?
An asshole.
This is the most unsympathetic Watcher ever.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yikes.
Louise.
Pretty rough stuff, guys.
Oof.
Rough stuff. But also, we all, I think we appreciated some stuff in this episode.
Yeah.
Not all of it. It's
There's a
kind
few
of an
good things.
episode.
Yeah.
I like Billy.
I like Billy,
Billy's
too.
good.
Well, thank you so much, everybody out there, for listening to this week's episode of Highlander Rewatched, Episode 3, Turnabout. Join us next week when the episode is...
The Darkness.
TBD.
I don't remember what the name is.
I don't
We'll plug it in later. Thanks for listening. I've been one of your rewatchers. I'm Keith.
This is Kyle.
This is Layman.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
It's wet, isn't it?
That's what she said.
Well, Quentin Barnes is coming.